All right, guys, we are slowly getting the microphones on in the show, rocking and rolling. This is the Tuesday edition of the Jerry and Jerry Show, starring the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe himself. The man is an author. He's a columnist. He is a podcaster, broadcaster, pontificator, dog lover, Waffle House lover. The Waffle House tidbit and Hootie's Golden Nuggets made my morning.
Did you like that?
That was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. The Golden Nuggets were particularly golden this go-around.
Thank you.
They were quite robust, Hootie.
That one was kind of fun.
The Waffle House was great. That's the kind of stuff
you
that I
won't
think.
see that anywhere else.
Right. That's the kind of stuff that people like. And Hootie and I are kind of talking almost like insider conversation here, but we'll talk about it on the show. He offers a golden nugget on jerryratcliffe.com that if you're not, was it 10 miles within the Waffle House, Hootie?
Yeah.
If your school is not located within 10 miles or less of a Waffle House, then you do not belong in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And the blue bloods of the ACC are all very well within 10 miles. In fact, so is SMU and Louisville. But goodness gracious, the Pitt Panthers, Syracuse, Boston College, Stanford, Cal, they just do not understand what it is like to have some bacon, egg, and cheese or some scrambled eggs or some waffles late night at a Waffle House because their schools are entirely too far away. We'll talk Golden Nuggets. We'll talk the over-under at 6. I thought 6 was pretty on point for the Virginia football team for wins.
Agree. Yeah, I saw 6 and 6.5 by another service.
6 wins. It's interesting. If they hit 6 wins, is the season a disappointment? Depends on if one of the 6 is Virginia Tech.
That's a good point. I think in some people's mind it would be.
Yeah, I think in some people's mind it would be. A lot of pressure on this coaching staff. We'll talk about it today on the Jerry and Jerry Show. Ryan Odom, as JerryRatcliffe.com has reported, has got 3 offers for the class of 2026. Thank goodness the Atlantic Coast Conference cut the regular season schedule from 20 to 18 games, especially with how few basketball teams from the ACC made it to the big dance. This is going to offer an opportunity for athletic directors and coaches to schedule some cupcakes to pad that schedule. A lot of fodder on a post-graduation Jerry and Jerry show on a gorgeous Tuesday morning in downtown Charlottesville. Judah Wickhauer is behind the camera. I think, Judah, my friend, we can rock and roll when you are ready. Good Tuesday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on the Jerry and Jerry Show. It's an absolute pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille Network on a program that stars the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. This man knows Virginia athletics like the Pope knows holy water. This man knows golden nuggets like Scrooge McDuck knows gold coins. Jerry Ratcliffe is a talented broadcaster, columnist, author, award-winning writer, and someone I'm proud to call my friend. His content of late has been absolutely on point. In particular, if you have not had a chance to read his scatter-shooting column with some of the best golden nuggets that you will find on the internet, you are missing a doozy. I enjoyed it this morning over a coffee and a bowl of Frosted Flakes with some sliced bananas this morning. It was just a very enjoyable start to my day. Judah Wickhauer is behind the camera. He's the director and producer of the show, and goodness gracious, post-graduation, do we have a lot to cover. We have an over-under line, a threshold set for wins for Virginia football for 2025. One service pegs Virginia at 6, another at 6.5. A lot of pressure on Tony Elliott and his coaching staff as the transfer portal continues to have momentum in Charlottesville. The reimagined roster gaining even more commitments of late. We'll talk about that with Hootie. We'll talk Ryan Odom in the class of 2026, Chance Mallory and Mr. Barksdale, where they fell in the final recruiting rankings, and goodness gracious, golf, tennis, track and field, and baseball still in the mix for some hardware. Judah Wickower, studio camera, then a two-shot for Hootie Ratcliffe. My friend, I love to just get out of your way for some scatter shooting commentary from the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer, who's looking quite dapper this morning.
Well, I don't know where to begin. There's so much going on that's unbelievable. Me and a handful of colleagues had a nice get-together with Brian O'Connor and a couple of the Virginia players yesterday afternoon after their practice over at Disharoon Park, and they were headed down to Durham, even though they don't play until late Wednesday night. They're going to be they changed the format again on the ACC tournament. It's back to, well, it's never been this way. It's single elimination now, so everybody could get in the tournament, which I like. I think I like that.
Me too.
And there's going to be 4 games Wednesday, and Virginia's the last one, scheduled to start at 9 o'clock. The chances of that game starting at 9 o'clock, it probably is off the charts, because inevitably something goes
slows
extra
them
innings
down,
or you get a rain delay or both, and so I don't know. It might not start till 9:30 or 10 o'clock, but they're fired up about their chances down there, and he believes they're in the tournament. I believe they are too.
We'll talk Virginia baseball. J-Dubs, if you could restart the stream on Hootie's Twitter account, that would do us a favor there. We got viewers and listeners eager to watch. We're live everywhere else. We'll get that up and running, viewers and listeners, in a matter of moments. Well, why don't we start with Brian O'Connor's baseball team? I mean, goodness gracious. They start preseason number 2 in the rankings.
Right.
Brian O'Connor's team. They struggle mightily out of the gates. They struggle in just about every facet of the game.
Yep.
But is there a baseball team that is more hot right now than Brian O'Connor's? I mean, it's a complete Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde here.
Yeah, if they are, I don't know who they are, but there might be. But it's hard to believe that anybody would be any hotter, because they've won 12 of their last 14 and 20 of their last 26, and they're now 32-17 overall, 16-11 in the league, and ranked or seeded 6th in the tournament. Only 1.5 games out of first place, in arguably one of the 2 top baseball leagues in the country. So, you know, that's a pretty big turnaround, because in late March they had lost 5 games in a row, swept at home by Duke, and were standing at 12-11. And so that here they are now at 32-17. And you know, if you're peaking at the right time, this is the right time. So I think I don't think they have to do anything in Durham, but they want to. They'd still like to win the ACC championship, something that has eluded them for a while. But I think they're in the NCAA, no question about it.
I think so too. They get 2 of 3 from Virginia Tech and Blacksburg. Sweep Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, look, absolutely convincing and dominant with a sweep of Miami. Jay Woolfolk is throwing the baseball extremely well. The team's got balance, and it's kind of come into form. A testament to O'Connor as he started. The team started cold here. What do you make of the turnaround? I think the props got to go immediately to the skipper.
I do too. I mean, we've seen this a few times in the past 6-7 years, I think, where they've, you know, started slower than expectations, and they had trouble getting things figured out, but they always got it figured out. It seems there was only maybe once or twice where they didn't. But, you know, you got to give them a lot of credit for not panicking and making wholesale changes. They just stuck with guys and shuffled the lineup a little bit. Moving Aiden Till to leadoff was a big part of this, I think. But they've been really red hot since they did that. And the pitchers, I think, the pitching staff came together. They were struggling for a while with control and giving up too many walks, which hurt them. But the bats have definitely gotten hot. But yeah, I think you got to give a lot of credit to O'Connor. He said he had there were several meetings, players only, and then sort of a come to Jesus meeting, I think, with O'Connor himself, when he just read them, told them the reality of where they stood with their backs against the wall and what they had to do. They had to take advantage of every opportunity that they were going to get from that point on, and they have. They've haven't blown much down the stretch, and they have a chance to do something, I think.
How was the mood when you met with Coach O'Connor?
Incredibly upbeat. I think the confident, and we also talked to Jay Woolfolk. We'll have something on him later today, and Jacob Ferencz. The confidence in this team is sky high right now. All these guys are fired up going to Durham and feel like they can do something special. They have an incredible belief in one another, and it was obvious just talking to those two players that how they feel about this season and the team going into postseason. They're just jacked up and ready to play.
You forget how long. I mean, you don't forget. You've been around the beat forever, but the average fan, the casual fan, even the close observer, such a long season. I mean, these guys
start in February.
Yeah, these guys have played 50 games, basically 50 games already, and now the playoffs start.
Yeah.
I mean, this is as long of season as you're going to find in sports games played. And Coach O'Connor and this team, we wish the best of the luck. We think both of them are in. It's a perfect segue to the rest of the spring slate. I mean, track and field, golf, tennis. There's still a lot of hope for hardware for Virginia fans out there.
Yeah, the women's track team won their first ever ACC championship over the weekend. They're breaking records all the time. The men's golf team is in their third straight NCAA championship. Wow, I think the last 2 years they've lost just heartbreaking defeats to teams that eventually won the national championship. I believe Florida and Auburn. And Virginia could have easily won either of those matches in match play. And so, maybe the third time's the charm for those guys.
A lot to cover. We'll certainly cover it on the Jerry and Jerry show. I'm particularly watching the tennis team very closely with pros all over that roster, guys. You have international talent on the tennis team and legitimately the next generation of professional talent in orange and blue uniforms. We'll transition to football as you get some headlines there on screen. And I appreciate that, Judah. The betting services are now releasing their lines, their over-under lines for college football. And they've done it for the entire Atlantic Coast Conference. Jerry Ratcliffe has it extremely well covered on jerryratcliffe.com. Check out the headline that's called Scatter Shooting. We lost Viggy. ACC goes to 18. Baseball in plus Golden Nuggets. 6 with one betting service. 6.5 wins with another betting service. 6. I like that over-under at 6 right there. I'll start open-ended. What do you make of the over-under win total at 6 wins, according to Circa Sports in Las Vegas?
I think I would go with that if I were a betting man. I think I would bet on the Cavaliers to win 6. They have no reason that they shouldn't. I mean, the schedule is lightened up a little bit. Could be lighter if they had used better methods in scheduling, I think. But they just yesterday they brought in their 32nd portal transfer to this team, and they've got some quality. through the portal, and they've got, this might be the deepest team that they've had since going back to the George Welsh days. Maybe even deeper than some of those teams. Not as talented, but depth-wise deeper, and they seem to be well covered at every position on the team, and they just don't. There's no excuses not to win at least 6 games with the talent they have on hand.
I'm with you. I think if I was a betting man here, man, it's hard to bet on them clearing 6 wins. We'll get to that. Let's get to some of the other win totals here. And the reason you posted some of the other over-under thresholds in the ACC is to give a glimpse of how difficult the Virginia schedule is. UVA, Circa has UVA at 6. Another betting service has 6.5 for Virginia. Check out the other win totals in the ACC. Notre Dame is 10. Over under 10 wins. Clemson over under 9.5 wins. Miami over under 9 wins. Louisville over under 8.5. SMU over under 8.5. Georgia Tech 7.5. North Carolina 7.5. Florida State 7. Duke 6.5. Pitt 6.5. Virginia Tech 6.5. That's a big time. This is a big season for the Hokies and that stuff. NC State 6. Virginia 6. Boston College 5.5. Cal 5.5. Syracuse 5.5. Wake 4.5. Stanford 3. Hootie writes on JerryRatcliffe.com, the good news is Virginia plays NC State, Stanford, Cal, and Wake Forest. That's 4 opponents with over-unders at 6 or less. Hootie.
Yeah, I mean, if you win those 4 games, and certainly it won't be easy, but if you win those 4, then you only have to win 2 others. And I would immediately, what comes to mind is Coastal Carolina in the opener here, and William and Mary here. That could get you to 6 in itself. And then they always beat somebody that they shouldn't beat, and usually lose to someone that they shouldn't lose to. But certainly there's a strong possibility of winning 6 games or more if all the pieces come together. And again, we've talked about that on the show in the past several weeks, that's probably going to be Tony Elliott and his staff's biggest challenge, is putting all this talent together and making it a cohesive unit on both sides of the ball. We've got so many people coming from every corner of the country, from all different kind of backgrounds and programs. They must get dizzy sometimes just trying to figure out who's who.
Cliff Daisy, watching the program in the Eastern Shore, he says, "Good morning, gentlemen." And he's a regular now. Cliff, we love your commentary.
Yeah.
He says, "Good morning, greetings from the Eastern Shore, 60 degrees, low humidity, and a fair breeze off the Chesapeake. I'm looking forward to your sports insights. You guys have a great show."
Thanks, Cliff. We appreciate you. No question. We'll have to go out and visit him one of these days.
Absolutely, absolutely. Cliff, we love when you watch the program. Viewers and listeners, you're encouraged to chime in, ask questions, and shape the discussion. We're live on all social media platforms. Put your commentary on any of the chat boxes or the comment sections. Our software will aggregate it, and I will relay your commentary live on air, just like I'm doing here from Henrico. Fellas, I'm looking at the schedule right now, and it's clear to me Coastal Carolina, NC State, William & Mary, and Stanford are must-wins, which will help the team start at 4-0. Does Hootie think any other games on this schedule are must-wins for success this year?
Well, I think Cal and Stanford are games that they pretty much have to win if they want to win 6 or more. It's going to be tough. I mean, they get the Hokies here, but we know how history has been there. But, at some point you got to break that string. No better time to do it than this year, I think. You got them on your turf. You've got enough talent and depth to play with Tech. I remember Tony Elliott specifically saying at the end of last season that was one of the problems he noticed against Tech, is that Tech had much more depth. That shouldn't be the case this year.
Plus, this isn't the Virginia Tech of Frank Beamer's time.
Oh, no, not even
Tech
close.
is down.
Yeah, they've struggled the past several seasons, as Virginia has, and I don't think they had quite as good a pickup in the portal as Virginia did, and maybe they didn't need to, but they lost a lot of talent as well into the portal. I'm not sure they retained as much of their team as Virginia did. So, that's an opportunity. I think, Carolina 7.5. That's pretty big demand on Belichick coming in with a new staff and new players, but that's a game that they seem to always be in most years. Can't remember. Do they play Pitt? I can't remember if they play
Virginia
Pitt.
football?
Yeah.
Look at I got the schedule right here. Nope, they do not play the Pitt Panthers.
Pitt this year, so I don't know. That's a game that could have been winnable, but they're not playing them. So they don't play They play Florida State here, and we don't know what Florida State's going to be like. Everybody thought they were going to be one of the top teams in the country last year, and they laid a huge egg. So even though they had a good transfer portal recruiting-wise, we don't know what this Florida State team's going to be like. And they come here, I believe.
Florida State is in Charlottesville. Very good memory.
Yeah.
The 26th of September, which might be the first tough test here for Virginia.
Yeah, and Florida State, I think, plays a couple of pretty good teams early on. I don't know if they open up with Alabama or somebody pretty good, but they'll be tested. So again, we don't know how good Florida State's going to be.
They were down.
They were awful last year.
You got to think Florida State's going to rebound though,
You would think so,
because they have talent.
Yeah, there's no question they've acquired talent, but again, sometimes it doesn't always come together.
Absolutely. Louisville, following Florida State, the odds makers have Louisville at 8.5 wins for their over-under. Starts the season, Coastal Carolina and Charlottesville, NC State, Raleigh. It's an actual out-of-conference game.
That's been a tough game for Virginia, no matter where they play it, and particularly in Raleigh. It's hard to win in Raleigh.
Absolutely. William and Mary, home. In week 3, Stanford, who is not a very good football team, week 4. Then the schedule starts picking up, folks. Florida State in Charlottesville, at Louisville. The Cardinal, the over-under is 8.5. Washington State for homecoming.
I don't know what they're going to be like. They were a fairly exciting team last year. Played, I think, upset a couple of people, but again, I don't know why they're playing that game. They could have scheduled a sure win there, but so that who knows? I think that game's up in the air.
Then you got North Carolina in Chapel Hill. Bill Belichick and his 24-year-old girlfriend will certainly be commanding the headlines.
I'm sure she'll be in her own luxury box up there.
She is getting as much headlines as Coach Belichick
More,
is herself. I think so. The last headline I read is she turned down Dancing with the Stars.
Okay, good for her.
And said it's during the football season. I'm focused on football.
Okay.
With Bill. Then California, which is a must-win game. Wake Forest for family weekend. Duke and Virginia Tech. The Hokies here in Charlottesville, of course, right around Thanksgiving, the 29th of November. A lot of games here that are winnable, and it's a must-win time, not only for Tony Elliott's staff, but goodness gracious, Brent Pry in his 3 years at Virginia Tech is 16-21. 10-13 in ACC play, Hootie.
Right, that's a big year for him too.
Both coaches must win.
Yeah.
Both coaches must win.
That home game against Duke is a winnable game, I would think.
I think the home game against Duke is absolutely winnable. You look at the over-under with Duke at 6.5, and that's the end of the year where they could be peaking at the right time.
Could be.
Your coverage of the football and the football team and the transfer portal has been significant. Goodness gracious, Tony Elliott is still welcoming players to the roster.
Yeah, he had added the 32nd player in the portal, transfer portal, yesterday. It was another cornerback who started out his career at Georgia Tech, played 5 years, I believe, at Georgia Tech, and then transferred to Utah. Had a really good year at Georgia Tech in 23. Went into the portal last year, was starting for the Utes in their opener and suffered a knee injury after 13 snaps, and then decided to hit the portal again. So this will be his 7th year of college football. It's a ton of experience to add to and that's the 5th cornerback that they've added through the portal. I mean, again, they're deep everywhere.
They're so deep. They're so deep. Keenan Johnson is the gentleman that Hootie's referencing, and the coverage on JerryRatcliffe.com is superb. Johnson joins 4 other cornerbacks, Hootie reports, that have transferred to Virginia this offseason. Donovan Platt from Army, Jamarick Morris from Georgia State, Emmanuel Carnley from Arizona, and Jordan Robinson from Cincinnati. The Georgia Tech Utah player, Keenan Johnson, the 32nd player acquired through the portal since the end of last year. Tony Elliott legitimately, if you call it the transfer portal, you call it free agency, whatever the heck you want to call it, has completely rebuilt this roster.
Yeah, it's a top 25 portal signing class. And, you know, that speaks volumes, I think, as to what he's been able to do with his war chest. He's spent it wisely.
They had a lot of money, and they got players, and now the players have to produce. This question's come in from Southwestern Virginia for Hootie. Which player from the portal does he see having the biggest impact from opening game? Let me add to that. Which player from the portal do you think will have the biggest impact next year?
Well,
how about I add that one?
It's obvious it's the quarterback. I mean, he's threw for nearly 4,000 yards last year at North Texas State and is returning to Power Conference football this year. But, I mean, this is the era of the quarterback, and if you don't have a good one, you don't really have much of a chance. I think they've got a good one in this kid. Trying to get him on the show. We'd love to have him on the show to introduce him to the fan base. But you know, he's nobody impacts a football game like the quarterback does, because he touches it every play pretty much on offense. And if you got a guy that can pull the trigger like that, and you got good receivers, and you got what appears to be a pretty significant, solid offensive line with depth, he should be good. He should be really good. I know some of the outsiders haven't given him much respect in terms of the overall quarterback rankings in the ACC, but I think they're underestimating this guy.
Well said. Comments coming in quickly. James Watson, who's bleeds orange and blue. He's a UVA grad. Congrats to the UVA football players who graduated over the weekend. The young men who coaches Bronco and Elliott recruited have been truly dynamic and well-rounded human beings. All the guys that I've met here and there over the last couple of years are young people to be proud of. Great comment from James. I'm particularly fond personally of Jonas Sanker. Who is going to have a chance to play on Sundays. I agree with what he's saying here. It's extremely rare that you see any off the field issues with any of the Virginia football players.
Absolutely, and you know, most of them are really well spoken kids. They're well mannered kids. You know, Tony Elliott believes in helping these guys become well-balanced men, not just football players, and he and his staff do a great job of that. And I think it maybe opened a lot of people's eyes back, sadly, from the tragic event of the 3 players who were killed a couple of years ago. But if you were paying attention and listened to some of his teammates speak at the memorial, those guys were unbelievably well put together, and something that I think any Virginia alum would be proud of, the way they presented themselves and represented the team. But we see that all the time, and they're out in the community working with kids in schools and doing various things in the community, and it's a program to be proud of in that respect.
This is an interesting question for Hootie that's come in. This one is from Crozet. Does Jerry Ratcliffe see a strength for the team and a weakness for the team right now?
Well, I think the strength of the team is probably going to be the passing game, because you've got a guy who's thrown for enormous yardage.
He can really spin it.
Yeah, I mean, he was starting quarterback on the TCU team that ended up playing in the championship. He got hurt during the season and couldn't finish it out, but I think this kid's for real. And they brought in several receivers. They returned a few receivers that have had some pretty decent numbers. And I think they might, for the first time in a long time, have a pretty good running game. They brought in some guys with some impressive numbers at running back, and Xavier Brown, who could forget how he played against Coastal Carolina last year when he rushed for 200 and some yards? I can't remember. It was a crazy number. He averaged like 30 yards a carry or something. And it looks like, again, for the first time in quite a while, that the offensive line should be well represented.
A strength potentially. Maybe first time since the Al Groh era.
Could be. It could be. I mean, again, a lot of these guys had really good run blocking grades by Pro Football Focus. If you look them up individually, most of them surrendered very few sacks last season and even the season before. And so if you've got an offensive line that can work together and keep the pass rush off of your passer and give the receivers time to run their routes properly, and if you've got a running game that works, that takes a tremendous load off the passing game, because it keeps the defense on their heels, and they can't load the tackle box. If they do load the tackle box, they're going to pay for it.
Do you see a weakness?
I don't really see a weakness right now. The defense has depth at every position, maybe the most depth on defense that they've
in a very long time.
Maybe that they've ever had. And there's been times where they've really struggled in the secondary and given up too many big plays, and had little depth, and were having to plug in people here and there, stick their finger in the dike, so to speak. And I mean, like I said, they just brought in 5 cornerbacks.
Well, they already had some talent returning.
And they already had some guys coming back. So and several safeties too. So no, I really don't see a weakness on this team. In the past, for the last, I don't know if Lindy's football magazine even exists anymore, but
you used to write for Lindy's.
I wrote for Lindy's for about 40 years, I think. And I'm not sure in today's, because usually you have to do your story on these for the football magazines. They have to have the stories in April.
Right. I don't think that model works anymore.
And that's awfully hard, considering that Virginia's added like 15 players since the spring game. So nobody knows who in the heck's even on the team at that point. So I don't know but that was one of the things in Lindy's that you always had to do, is point out team strengths and team weaknesses in their little team profile box. And you could always easily find a weakness. I can't find one on this team. If it's there, it's going to have to show itself.
And if there's a weakness, it's assimilating the talent in a short period of time.
Yeah, but
if
a lot
that's
of people,
a weakness,
a lot of people are going to have that.
That's
same
everybody,
problem. Yeah.
Right? That's everybody. So time will tell, and anything's possible with Virginia. This question's come in. Can he talk some more about Chandler Morris and why he likes him?
Well,
He's not a big guy, Chandler Morris.
no, he's about the same size of Anthony Calandria.
Right.
Actually, I think he might be just a little
Smidge taller.
Yeah, smidge taller.
Maybe 5, what do you say, maybe 5'10" for Chandler Morris? Maybe?
Maybe 5'10", 5'11".
Okay.
I think they list him at 6 feet.
They list him at 6 even. Yeah, there's no way that guy's 6 feet.
Doesn't look like it.
No.
But he might be. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But
Maybe 6 feet in the cleats with the yellow pages hanging around here.
but
He could spin it, though.
yeah, he can spin it. I talked to him a couple of times in spring, and he's a very impressive, confident kid. Well-spoken, has an incredibly high football IQ. His dad is a college football coach, considered an offensive genius by some. And you got to consider this kid's been through, is this his 4th program, I believe? Yeah.
I'll tell you right
Oklahoma,
Yeah.
TCU, North Texas, and Virginia. So
Yeah.
he's been through 4 programs, 4 offenses, I think 5 offensive coordinators, maybe 6. So he's learned all kinds of systems. He learned this one, I think, picked it up pretty quickly. He's got all the throws, from what I understand. I think he's probably a better decision maker than Calandria was. Maybe not quite as
athletic.
not quite as athletic or adept at running, but he can run the football. So don't sell him short on that. He can he can run it well enough to pick you up a first down when you need it. I don't know that he'd be carrying the ball quite as much as Calandria did on designed runs, but then again, I don't think you'll have to, because you'll have running backs that can do that, and I think he'd rather throw it than run it, and he's very adept at throwing it. So I think nearly 4,000 yards last season alone.
That's right.
An enormous amount of touchdowns.
31.
Yeah.
He was second team all-conference last year at North Texas.
Yeah. So
This kid's a winner.
yeah, he is, and I like everything about him. I think he's going to flourish here. I really do.
He is a coach's kid who's super heady, who's got a lot of experience. And his only year at North Texas, he was named team captain and was second team all conference. That speaks to his leadership credentials or ability. 63% of completions this past year, his completion rate, 63%. 31 touchdowns, 3,774 passing yards, and to Hootie's point, another 330 on the ground with his legs, with 4 rushing touchdowns. He finished number 4 nationally with 31 touchdowns, behind only Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, and the quarterback from Clemson. I mean, this guy has a nose for the end zone, and he's got talent all over the field. The key is how is all this talent going to be assimilated? You think it's going to be a pass-first offense? Because they got depth at running back.
I think they want to run a balanced offense, and they haven't been able to do it the way they'd like because of the
offensive
shortcomings on the offensive line,
line.
And sometimes not having a healthy running back, and those problems should be behind them. So I think we're going to see quite a bit of balance. They certainly won't be afraid to fling it, though. I mean, they didn't bring him in here to hand the ball off all day. So I think they like to keep a balanced offense and keep the defense on its toes, or on its heels rather. And it helps a quarterback so much if you can have a decent running game, and it opens up the whole play action part of your offense and gets a lot of people involved. And again, it keeps defenses from loading up the tackle box on you and blitzing the heck out of you. If they do, and if you have a guy who's pretty smart like he is, he can burn you. And so I really think this is going to be fun offense to watch.
This is an interesting question that's come from Georgia. Is it clear that Chandler is the quarterback for Virginia this year, or could he split time with another one of those quarterbacks?
I think it's clearly his job. I know coaches came out of the spring and said that it was undecided, but I think coaches are just being
Coach speak.
Yeah, diplomatic and saying the right things. You don't want to run people off saying they have no chance, because it's,
They do have a kid on the roster that initially committed to Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, and he might have started for Nebraska had Nebraska not brought in a five-star stud quarterback on top of him.
And he's more prototypical in quarterback measurement, 6'3", 220.
Yeah, he's definitely a drop back passer, and we've seen it in the past here. It's not difficult for a quarterback to get injured and miss a game or more. So, it's good to have somebody with that kind of talent in reserve, and he's probably your quarterback of the future, I would think, because he has 4 years of eligibility remaining, and Morris this is his last go-round. So, but I think it's clearly his job, and I think Kalen, the backup, I think he knows that and is probably fine with it, and knowing that if he does what he's supposed to do, he'll be the starting quarterback for the 3 years beyond that if he wants to be.
Good stuff from the viewers and listeners. We segue to basketball.
Great questions.
Absolutely great questions. We have 3 scholarships being handed out for the class of 2026.
Well, they added another one yesterday.
So 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yesterday, and this guy's probably rated the highest of all of them. He's the top prospect in the state of North Carolina. Grew up in Hillsboro, the state where the state lawmakers are, and he's originally from there, and he plays for Caldwell Academy in Greensboro. He's a 6'8" wing. Cole Clower, I guess it's Clower or Clower, Cloer. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but he's the number 29 recruit overall in the nation in the rankings, and so you don't get a whole lot of top 30s. And he's been offered by practically everybody in the ACC and beyond: Alabama, UConn, Ohio State, Villanova, Tennessee, Illinois, and pretty much everybody in the ACC. So that's the latest edition. They offered him yesterday. And then there was 3 kids before that. Bo Ogden, a 6'6" guard wing from Austin, Texas. I think his ranking was nationally number 70, the 7th best prospect in the state of Texas. And he's incredible. He has incredible numbers in the spring circuit. He leads the Adidas SSB circuit in scoring, 25 points a game. Has made almost 67% of his field goal attempts, 73% of his three-point attempts, 73%.
That's amazing.
100% of his free throws. This kid's unbelievable. Just looking at some video of him, he looks like he can shoot it like Con Knippel does down at Duke. And so, I don't know, but he's already been offered by Texas naturally, and Virginia, Purdue, SMU. I'm sure that that recruiting is going to blow up. And then Christian Gibson, a combo guard out of Houston, Texas, 6'6", national number 61, number 6 in the state of Texas. He's being recruited by everybody: Kentucky, Alabama, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Houston, Ole Miss, TCU, Texas Tech. He's leading the EYBL, or he's not leading, but he's in the top 10 in scoring in the EYBL. It's another AAU circuit. And another kid, they've offered is Trey Thompson, a 6'8" forward out of Greenville, Tennessee. Composite 137 in the country. Not ranked quite as high as some of the others, but top 5 in the state of Tennessee. He's being recruited hard by just about everybody, and he's been invited to the NBA Players Association Top 100 camp, which used to be here, and which Virginia got some players out of back in the day. But those are 4 pretty high
Those are big-time players right there.
Yeah. I mean, those are the kind of guys you want to see coming into your program.
The roster for Virginia basketball, we have a little bit more clarity on the first years that have committed to Virginia. Chance Mallory, it was like 54 by 247 Sports and his class. I mean, that's pretty good.
Dang right.
And then Barksdale, top 100 from 247 Sports. So he's got first years that are coming in that are going to learn from these older college basketball players that have transferred in and that have portaled in. And do you see a time, this question is being asked a lot, do you see a time where Chance Mallory could crack the starting lineup for Virginia? Or is this a waiting game for the St. Anne's Belfield product?
Well, it depends. I think there might be times where he starts, depending on matchups, and there might be times where they might go with a 4-guard lineup to start with, depending on what kind of team they're playing. I mean, they may give him a start early against some of the Cupcakes just to see how he reacts. Yeah. But I think it's possible. I mean, the kid's really good. I mean, he's really good. If you haven't seen him play, you're missing something for sure. Because I mean, he's 5'9", but he can dunk the basketball, and he can shoot it from the NBA 3. He has that kind of talent, and he can drive to the rim. He doesn't let his size get in his way. In fact, I think he's found ways to use it to his benefit. But even if he doesn't start, he's going to play, and that's going to be a benefit to Virginia to have a guy with his talent in the program.
Chance Mallory, 54 on 247 Sports ranking for the class of 2025. Silas Barksdale, who decommitted from VCU to follow his head coach Ryan Odom to UVA, 86 in the 247 Sports final rankings. Goodness gracious. Football and basketball at Hootie. Let me ask you this question. Do you remember a time where the on-paper optimism for football and basketball, I'm talking both teams, the on-paper optimism was at this level? It's been a while.
You'd have to go back a ways for sure. Probably to the early Grow days and some of the George Welsh era, because they had some pretty good teams during that span. Terry Hollins had quite obviously some really great teams. Jeff Jones had a couple of really good teams during that stretch. Maybe not so much during the Grow era, because that basketball was kind of floundering there for a while. So, it's been a while. The only thing that would compare to it since then would be 2019, when Virginia went to the Orange Bowl in football and won the national championship in basketball. And it doesn't get much better than that for this program and this school. But I'm not sure that people anticipated either of those things happening. So, and again, some fans prefer not to be carried away, because we've seen people come in from the portal before and not live up to expectations. So it's going to be up to the coaches in both sports to put these rosters together and make them winners. And I think the talent's there. It's just they've got to put it together and find the right combos and make them develop them into their potential.
This is a great comment. This comment's coming from here in Charlottesville. How much does Hootie think the money has inspired these roster additions? Is it the money first that we point to for all this talent coming here?
Oh, without a question. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Virginia finally decided, okay,
We have to do this.
if we want to be competitive, if we want to be a player, then we got to play, and we got to ante up, and they did, to their credit. And the coaches have done a good job of finding what looks like on paper to be really good teams, really good rosters, and have spent their money wisely, considering that it's all new to them as well, and trying to figure it out on the run, on the fly. I think they've done a superb job of handling things. Again, on paper, Virginia's transfer portal class is like 23 in the country, something like that. That's pretty darn good. And basketball, I haven't seen any team rankings on that, but it looks like he's put together a roster that can play his style of basketball and get up and down the floor. And there's no question they couldn't have done this without not only opening up the bank vault, but opening up their minds and their attitude to allow this to happen, because they didn't do this before. And they paid the price for it.
And they paid the price. They absolutely paid the price. Make or break season, guys, for football and this basketball team. The expectations are certainly sky high with the new licensing fees and pay for seats plan that is upcoming a few years down the road. One of the golden nuggets I absolutely love from your scatter shooting column was the Waffle House reference. I touched on it briefly in the beginning of the year, but I want to throw this again to the viewers and listeners. This is what Hootie writes in his column. If your school is located more than 10 miles from a Waffle House, you do not belong in the ACC. Here's the list and distance of each school from the nearest Waffle House. Georgia Tech, goodness gracious, half a mile. The Ramblin' Wreck just loves them waffles. Florida State, 1.1 miles. The Hokies, 1.2. Clemson, 1.3. NC State, 1.7 miles from a Waffle House. Duke, 2.4. Miami, 2.4. SMU, 2.5. Louisville, 3.6. UVA, just 4 miles from a Waffle House. I think we're down to one Waffle House now, aren't we, Judah? The one on 5th Street Extended is now it's a vape shop now.
Oh, is it?
It's a tobacco hut.
Oh, okay.
But there's one, is it 29?
Yeah, I was there last night,
right.
Believe it or not.
This man loves the Waffle House over here. Wake Forest, 5 miles from a Waffle House. North Carolina, 7 miles. And how about this? Pitt, 23.5 miles from a Waffle House. Syracuse, 122 miles from a Waffle House. Boston College, 292. Stanford, 729. And Cal, 758 miles from a Waffle House. Hootie Ratcliffe.
I'll tell you, Waffle House saved my son and I, saved our lives in Minneapolis. After the national championship game, we were in the press room writing about the fantastic victory over Texas Tech until 2 or 2:30 in the morning, filing stories. And you're not going to find any place to eat at that time of night, and so we kept driving, and I said we got to find something open at some point. We were both starving, and we ran into a Waffle House. In fact, I took a picture of it, put it on my Twitter. It's probably still there somewhere, but that was an oasis in the night, and as it is for a lot of people, I think. And didn't surprise me that SMU had one pretty close by.
SMU, that kind of surprised me. Didn't surprise you?
No, if you watch the movie Tin Cup, they celebrated him getting into the U.S. Open at the Waffle House there and wherever it was.
Kevin Costner, one of his best roles, Tin Cup. Bob Sefik says, "Hi guys, how you guys doing?"
Doing great. He's a former Oahu basketball player and still helps keep some of these reunions going. Really good guy.
He's watching the show right now. And speaking of former Virginia football players and Wahoos, another one lost, Hootie.
Yeah, it was sad to hear the news about Tommy Vigorito's passing. He played for Sonny Randall, running back, back in the mid and late 70s, and I had a great opportunity to meet him. I saw him play a couple of games. I wasn't here at the time, but I saw he was before I came here. But I saw him play in a couple of games. Tough. Really tough running back. He was a big-time recruit, and how Virginia got him, I'll have no idea. But he was from New Jersey, and he was a workhorse. Joe Bach, who we'll have on this show one of these days, a great guy with a great sense of humor, said that he told me, he said, in the locker room after games, I used to see bruises and blue marks all over Vigorito's body in the locker room from face guards and helmets hitting him so hard. And he was a workhorse, and this was back in the days when you got your bell rung and you kept playing, didn't realize the repercussions. And he had several concussions and wasn't aware of it. And I think it caught up to him, and when I met him at a Virginia Football Alumni Club get-together not far from here a couple of years ago, a lot of people said, well, I don't know if Tommy can talk to you because he's having some issues. And I don't know if it was Joe or somebody else that went over and approached him. Some people said, I don't think you should interview him. And Joe went over and talked to him, and he said, yeah, I'd love to talk to him. And so I went over, and we sat down and talked for a while. And he might have been having some issues, but his recall of his playing days at Virginia and with the Miami Dolphins, where there was a nice video of him, highlight tape of him with the Dolphins making some huge plays as a kick returner and a running back, versatile running back, could catch the ball. Really nice clip on there. But he could remember those things like it was yesterday, and I think it added some joy in his life that people were letting him relive those moments. He was just a great guy.
Great guy. As you highlighted, fearless, still ranked pretty high in the record books for rushing.
I think he's still sixth all-time rushing. It was sixth or seventh all-time rushing.
For a team that did not do well.
No, they didn't have a winning record. I don't think the whole time he was here.
Listen to the company this man is amongst. Thomas Jones, Tiki Barber, Terry Kirby, John Pappas, Wally Lundy, and then Viggy. I mean, that's quite impressive company there.
Yeah, particularly considering how long ago that was.
Right, exactly. At 65 years old, he passes away.
Yeah.
And as you've highlighted, it has been a tough year for UVA and ACC fans. Danny Wilmer, the former coach, John Feinstein, who I've admired his work forever.
Love John.
Larry Keach.
Terrific guy. He was always one of the stars on the ACC football tour when you had 30 media guys from TV, radio, and newspapers touring every ACC school on a bus for 2 weeks. And Larry would often keep us entertained on the bus by singing any fight song that any school you could come up with. But he was quite a character. And one thing just for Virginia fans, and I know it's been a while since Danny Wilmer's memorial, but we finally, Ron Carey, who a former player, has a company in Richmond, and they videotaped that memorial service, and with some photos and stuff, and that video is finally ready, and we're going to try to have that video in its entirety, which was probably at least an hour, hour and a half long, including Charles Haley from the 49ers and Cowboys talking about what Danny Wilmer meant to him. And some other former players speaking about, and coaches speaking about Danny. We're going to have that on our website, hopefully tonight.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's absolutely awesome.
It's definitely worth your time to watch it.
I know he meant a lot to so many, including to Hootie. Fantastic program again today. Jerry Ratcliffe, guys, carries the load. His website, jerryratcliffe.com. If you want a fantastic read today, check out his scatter shooting column, which is absolutely fantastic work by Hootie. He's on the recruiting beat. He's on football. He's on basketball. He's on the spring sports. JerryRatcliffe.com is where you get your UVA and Virginia coverage, folks. Judah Wickower is behind the camera, the director and producer of the show. We appreciate Judah quite a bit.
Magic Man. Don
Mikowski, like over here for Judah Wickower. And my name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for watching the show. The I Love CVille show is up at 12:30. So long, everybody. Take care.